So good morning or good afternoon to everyone who is joining us. Thank you for joining us, in fact, for this next level webinar. This one's title is Migration, Moving Profiles and Data in Windows 10, and will be presented by Richie Morgan, who is one of our lead technical instructors. My name is Kemal Tunjer, and I will be your MC, and what that means for today is that I will read your questions. So if you do have questions, please use the question box on the lower right-hand side, and I will go ahead and speak out those questions to Richie, who will answer in line. You don't need to wait until the end. This webinar, as all of our next level webinars, is brought to you by Microsoft, by New Horizons, a Microsoft partner delivering over 300 classes per week in multiple locations, 56 to 60 countries throughout the world. As I said, this webinar is brought to you by Richie Morgan, one of our lead instructors, and I will go ahead and let him take it over. Richie, go ahead. The podium is yours.
All right, crew. Well, just let me welcome you to our webinar here, talking a little bit about migration in general, but specifically for Windows 10. There are some interesting things we're going to get into today. I appreciate Kunal's introductions and giving me a name, and here's my face, a lovely face too, by the way, I think. So we're going to get into some definitions, kind of define the area that we're going to be dealing with as far as part of today's agenda. There are instances where we need to do singleton migrations. We're going to introduce a tool for doing that, specifically LapLink's PC Mover, and there will be a little demo of using that tool. We'll also talk about some of the larger enterprise-level rollouts, network-wide rollouts of a Windows 10. And migration in those instances is not as easy to do with the PC Mover tool, so Microsoft has a user state migration tool, and we'll talk about that guy and do a little bit of demonstration of how it works and show you guys some of the different ways that these things are going to work. And then at the end, I've got another slide for Q&A, but again, as mentioned by our lovely MC, please feel free to throw your questions into that chat area right away. If something comes up to you, I don't want it to get lost in the waiting between the Q&A at the end and right now. So go ahead and throw it in the chat, and then our MC will read it back out to me so I can have a quick little answer of whatever it is, if it's answerable at that point. But yeah, there is a point at the end to ask questions as well if you want to take advantage of that. I want to make sure you guys get your questions answered. So that's kind of our agenda for this short get-together. So first up, welcome. Well, it might be appropriate for you guys to understand where I was aiming this. Who is the appropriate person for the knowledge that I'm going to be handing out here? Specifically, IT professionals who are going to be responsible for migrating all of the appropriate user-related data, all the settings from earlier versions of Windows up to a Windows 10 platform. So let's break that down. IT professionals, folks who are already in IT. If you are a home user and you saw something about Windows 10, this may be a little bit deep for you. It's still nice to know. I don't have any problem with folks gaining knowledge. But again, this is going to be aimed for someone who's in the trenches, somebody who's out there hammering away at Windows operating systems and trying to deploy them. Specifically, those folks are going to be looking into moving an environment to Windows 10 from maybe Windows XP. If it's still out there, we do have tools for migrating Windows XP stuff to Windows 10. So we'll talk about some of that. But the person who should be attending this webinar, an IT pro, somebody who's in the trenches doing this on a day-to-day basis. Why would you want to attend this? So what am I going to answer in this? I'm hopefully going to answer some of the questions you may have about Microsoft's singleton or one-off migration tool, the LapLink PC Mover Express, and how to do some simple profile and setting movement. And then if you wanted to do it in a larger rollout, maybe an automated platform for migration, we're going to talk a little about some of the different automated components of user state migration tool and how to use user state migration tool and make that work for us. To lay the groundwork for this, I wanted to kind of give you guys the picture of what does upgrade and migration look like. And then we'll get into the specifics of the migration tools. So let me get into that. To be or not to be, I'm a clip art fiend. I'm a fan of clip art. So you see my lovely little Shakespearean Hamlet there holding good old Yorick, although that's not that scene. I still like it. To upgrade or to migrate. We have a choice here. The choice of upgrade versus migrate. And what would I get one way or the other is going to play into, am I ever even going to touch these migration tools? Am I ever going to get to them? So let me lay out the migration paths. I'm sorry, the upgrade paths. In a Windows 10 environment, we have, well, all right, so let me answer the elephant in the room. Who gets a free upgrade, right? We're all hearing about how Windows 10, you get free upgrades. If you are a home user or a pro user, you get a free upgrade from Windows 7 and Windows 8 / Windows 8.1. So you have a free upgrade. Happy day for you. If you are an enterprise user, you can upgrade, but it's not free for you. So that's the elephant in the room. Let's get that out of the way. Who gets the free upgrade? The home and pro users get the free upgrade to Windows 10. The enterprise users get stuck with a license bill, so they have to actually pay the license. But it's still viable to upgrade. If you're still on Vista or Windows XP, you miss out on this train completely. There is no valid upgrade path. And by that, what I mean is you cannot do a in-place install. You cannot install Windows 10 on top of Windows XP or on top of Vista. Now, the trick with an upgrade is that an upgrade is going to give you the ability to keep your existing applications if they are compatible with Windows 10. They are already installed, they get kept, they get maintained. It allows you to keep all your user data. It allows you to keep all your configuration settings, your choices on desktop wallpaper, your specifications on mouse movement. All of that is maintained when you do an upgrade. No need to migrate. The problem is you keep your old hardware. You don't get to keep, any of your, well, you have to keep your old hardware if you're doing it in place at that point. So valid paths for upgrade. We'll talk a little bit more about the details of this. You can go from Windows 7, Windows 8, or Windows 8.1 straight up to 10 with no issue. If you're anything behind Windows 7, you're up the creek. You don't have an upgrade option. Migrate is your only option in those cases. So let's talk a little about the migrate side of this coin then. What would a migrate path be? Well, with the current set of tools that Microsoft has given us, you can migrate from Windows XP all the way back to Windows XP systems. We can migrate that data to Windows 10. Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1, all migratable. Now, generally what that means is we're going to do a side-by-side install. We're not going to do an in-place install. So we end up with a clean install of Windows 10, and then we'll take the appropriate user data, user settings, user preferences, and migrate that from the old system to the new system. And that way, when the user logs in on Windows 10, everything feels familiar. They've got all their data, they've got all their settings, they've got everything that they are happy with over in the other operating system, also in the new system, with some gotchas. There are some little gotchas depending upon the tool that you're using to accomplish this migration. Now, I've put a couple of these guys in
Richie?
Little bit.lys at the bottom, so I wanted to make sure you guys saw those. There's some bit.lys in the bottom that you guys can use on each of these slides. Go ahead.
Richie, we had two questions. You may have answered these in line, but I'd like to make sure you get them read to you anyhow.
Okay.
This is specifically for the upgrade / migration from an earlier version of Windows to Windows 10 ? I think you've handled that, but will Windows Easy Transfer still be available in Windows 10? We use that when we are re-imaging computers or providing a new computer to an associate and want to provide them with local settings and data.
Okay. The answer to that is actually in the next slide.
Great.
Actually, we'll get to it later.
Then I'll ask you one more question, and you can follow that one up. If you are running Windows 7 Ultimate, do you have the option for a free upgrade?
Windows 7 Ultimate, yes, it is included in the upgrade for free pack. So Windows 7 Ultimate, Windows 7 Pro, Windows 7 Home, those guys are all free to upgrade. The only one that gets stuck with the bill is the enterprise team. Now, I have a little note. This bit.ly down here, http://win10migrate no wet. And that's a quick answer to that question. There is no more Windows Easy Transfer. Don't ask me why. I haven't had to sit down with Nadella recently, and our T's normally don't center around the Windows 10, but when we do have T next time, I'll ask why. But they decided not to release the Windows Easy Transfer tool with Windows 10. It's not there. It's gone. But they made sure to cover their bases, and we'll talk about what they covered that base with. Specifically, the tool is LapLink, another company, had a tool called PC Mover, and Microsoft either wrangled with them or wrestled with them or twisted their arm or something, and they got LapLink to produce a free Express Personal Edition of PC Mover for anybody who wants to do that Windows Easy Transfer, easy migration without having to go whole hog and user state migration tools. So we still have the functionality, but they've kind of outsourced that functionality and said, okay, we're not going to give you wet anymore. We're going to give you another company's tool. We just worked out a deal with them. So that's what we're going to talk about in a little bit, and I'll show that off. But that's a pretty good question. Thank you for asking that. All right, so let's go into the goods and bads here as far as when I do an upgrade. 2 for 1. 2 for 1. What an upgrade to Windows 10 is going to get you. If you do an in-place upgrade, all right, no migration necessary. You keep your user data, you keep your user settings, you keep certain applications, again, as long as they're compatible with Windows 10, they're already installed in your old OS, they're perfectly functional and working in the Windows 10 OS, you're good. You also get a brand new OS. The drawbacks I kept over here on the other side, you keep your old hardware. Now, again, that may or may not be a drawback. That's why I didn't label this as the negative side. It may be fine. You've got good enough hardware in Windows 8. You just want to upgrade to Windows 10 on the same hardware, you keep your old hardware. If you're upgrading from Windows XP and trying to put Windows 10 on hardware that was good for Windows XP, you're very likely not going to be happy. So keep that in mind. You may also lose some applications. Application compatibility may still be an issue. So you want to keep an eye on those compatibility things if you're going to be doing an in-place upgrade. Now, that's not what you came for. We came for migration. So if I'm not going to be installing Windows 10 right on top of the existing OS, but maybe in a side-by-side install, a clean install of Windows 10 on a separate machine, I am going to have to migrate my user data. So again, if I'm not doing the upgrade in place, but I'm doing an install on a separate platform, new hardware in many cases, brand new OS, you migrate that user data in the user settings, but you are then going to be required to reinstall and possibly lose some of your apps. All of your apps are going to need to be reinstalled. You do not get to carry over those applications. Now, I forgot to put the asterisks on there. There's a little gotcha with that instance, that little thing. Do I get to keep any of my apps from my other platform? Not with the default tools that we get for free from Microsoft. And I'll address that in a second. So what do we have? What are the tools of the trade here? What does Microsoft give us to accomplish these migration techniques? Well, specifically, the new Windows Easy Transfer. All right. Again, I mentioned Microsoft decided we're not going to re-release Windows Easy Transfer with Windows 10. Instead, they had a deep, meaningful conversation with LapLink and said, we really want you guys to offer a free edition of PC Mover. So they did. They've got a PC Mover Express edition for free. That is at laplink.com. Now, the trick is, and I wish I would have put it on this slide, you can't get to the free edition straight from LapLink's site. The free edition is not directly available from LapLink's site, and I think I've got it bit.ly'd over here for you. Kit and tools. Windows Easy Transfer, Windows 10 Migrate. Yeah, I put it actually on the slide previously. The Windows 10 Easy Transfer, no Windows Easy Transfer is here. And I had to search around for this page a lot to get it to come up. This is actually straight from Microsoft, so straight from the horse's mouth. We've got Windows Easy Transfer is not available in Windows 10. This is the bit.ly that I put at the bottom of that slide, so when you guys get the slide deck, just look for that one and it's in there. And they have a link here to PC Mover Express. And when you click on that link, it actually opens up, this is not LapLink's site. This is Microsoft hosting a page with LapLink's logo on it that is at pcmoverfree.azurewebsites.net. Azurewebsites.net, owned by Microsoft, of course. So pcmoverfree.azurewebsites.net, and it actually has a link to the free download. Again, you're not going to get it if you go to the LapLink site, but you will get it if you download it here. You click on that link, and it takes you to the LapLink server, gets the PC Mover updater.exe, and downloads it. You don't even have to visit LapLink's site. If you visit LapLink's site, you're going to be bombarded with the pay version of the PC Mover Express. You're going to be bombarded with, hey, upgrade to Pro, which, by the way, we're not done with that bombardment either. We're still going to get some notes when we install this guy that, hey, you might want to upgrade to Professional. Let me go ahead and settle that now. The Professional Edition adds the ability to keep and transfer your applications. Huge asterisks on that one. Transferring applications without the actual install media is real tricky. PC Mover's done a pretty good job of making it happen, but it doesn't change the fact that compatibility may be problematic between the two. And add to that the fact you don't have the install media, it's really tricky to get applications to move from one to the other. But you can do it. The Pro Edition claims to be able to transfer not only user data and settings, but also applications from old machine to new machine. So that may be worth the money for you. But they do give us a free version at this site, pcmoverfree.azurewebsites.net. And again, I have the link for you guys, starting with that Microsoft No More Wet, and then getting over to there with that link. So kind of nice to be able to have that. That being said, let me get back over to my presentation. So it is free, Express Edition, personal use only. Granted, we can actually make use of it for singleton moves from one machine to the next. You can migrate user data, migrate user operating system settings, so their background wallpaper, their desktop content, their choices on mouse speed, keyboard, cursor rates, all of that comes across with the PC Mover from LapLink. It's great for a single user, individual transfer. However, the Professional Edition, which will allow you to keep and reinstall or transfer the applications, is not free. It also has an interesting feature where if you generated a safety backup image, which you can do in Windows 7 and Windows 8, you can generate an image of your PC, you can actually, with the Professional Edition of PC Mover, crack open that image and transfer user settings from that image to your new Windows 10 platform. That is a neat trick, too. I was looking forward to seeing that one in action. But PC Mover does offer you that as an option several times during the transfer. They say, oh yeah, by the way, you're installing the Express Edition, but you won't get your apps upgrade. And oh yeah, you're installing or using the Express Edition, but you don't have the ability to open an image upgrade. So they advertise a little bit in their tool because they want to get money from you. I mean, everybody does. So of course, PC Mover is going to make that the push. Go to the Professional Edition. But you do have a free Express Edition that does the job. Again, though, let's look at this from the negative side. It's for a single user. It's not for a wide deployment. It's not for your entire office general deployment of Windows 10. So generally not going to be what you're after for those large rollouts of Windows 10. So what do we have that does the large rollouts? Well, that's where user state migration. Microsoft has revised and re-released user state migration tools as part of their administrator deployment kit. And that administrator deployment kit includes a lot of things, very many things, that you could install, and among them is the user state migration tools. And those tools include a scan state, a load state, and a utility for user state migration that allows you to interact with specific XML files. But you've got those three pieces of the user state migration tools. There's an executable named scan state, there's an executable named load state, and there's that utility piece. Now, the user state migration tool is great for network-wide deployments. It's great for a large enterprise deployment because it's scriptable, it's automatable, it will grab the user data, the application settings, but it will not even with a pro version, it will not transfer applications. It does not transfer or reinstall applications. You will need to handle that through scripting or other means. Maybe you're a System Center user and you can use System Center Operations Manager to be able to push those other applications out, but it will grab the application settings, not the applications. So you'll get the user data, you'll get the operating system settings, the application settings. It can be scripted, automated. You can actually push it out via some of your domain utilities. Again, System Center can play into this, and it is a wonderful platform for your enterprise-wide, network-wide rollout for migrating. Again, everybody has a Windows 7 platform now. We're all moving to Windows 10. Let's make some of this happen in an easy fashion. So we may actually do that through user state migration. Now, this is where I get to show off some of these tools, so the show me the money side, where I'm going to demonstrate some of the PC Mover and user state migration tools. So let me hop over to the environment. Let me describe my environment for you because I went ahead and set this up. I went ahead and added in a Windows 10 virtual machine. I'm running virtual machines, and this is Windows 10, the most recent release. I have gone ahead and set it up, installed the PC Mover Updater, which is the LapLink PC Mover Express Edition. I downloaded that. I also went ahead and downloaded the Assessment and Deployment Kit, the ADK. Generally, when you're using both of these tools, require you to have each parts of that tool installed on both machines. So being on both machines means I have a second machine out here. Specifically, I have a Windows 8.1 installed. Now, I went ahead and logged on with the same Microsoft account on both. So that's why we've got the shared wallpaper on both of these guys. This is my test user. He's administrative on the Windows 10, and this is the same test user administrative on the Windows 8. Little note, if you guys want to catch on to this, those Microsoft accounts have the ability to synchronize certain portions of your account. Specifically, desktop wallpaper synchronizes between machines. That actually goes up to your Microsoft account, comes back down to any machine you log into, which is kind of slick if you like that kind of thing. Other folks in domains, they may not like that synchronization, so that is an option that can be turned off, by the way.
Richie.
But in this case, oh, go ahead.
I have a question from one of the people here. Will USMT capture the installed software, meaning not reinstall it, but capture what was installed? So I guess so you have some sort of a list.
That's a great question. No, USMT does not capture a list of anything that's installed. It will capture any settings, and you could probably extrapolate from the settings that it captured what stuff was installed if you wanted to dig into that migration content, but there is no published output of this is what was installed in that arena. So USMT does not capture that. Again, there are other tools that might help you in that deployment kit, though. They actually have an application compatibility toolkit, and the application compatibility toolkit does generate a list of everything that's installed, and then will indicate what's compatible with Windows 10 and what's not.
And a follow-up to that is, what about applications installed in app data?
Yeah, it doesn't matter where they're installed. As long as the application has settings, and some of that may be in app data, the application itself does not get moved or reinstalled. It's just the data that supports that application. Now, you may have applications that it's not really installed, but it's just an executable that's stored along with the user data. I have a couple of tools that do that. Specifically, there's an auto hotkey script that was compiled that I like to use to make something stick on top. If it's stored with your user data, USMT just sees it as user data. So it transfers it, and it's not going to install it, but the executable moves over, the user settings indicate start that auto hotkey whenever the machine cranks up, and voila, you got your auto on top, built right in with USMT. So don't get me the wrong way, if it's just a file, happens to be an executable, then USMT will grab it, but it does not install anything. Hopefully that catches you up, that lets you know. But again, even if the stuff is installed in user data or app data, it's not going to reinstall anything. It's just going to copy files from one to the other, and move those appropriate settings that the user's after. Good questions. Thank you for asking these. These are great. Well, I like the interplay here.
And I've got one more great question.
Hit me.
And then I'll let you go on for a little bit. Let you catch your breath. Does the USMT work from XP or 7 to Windows 7 or 8, which I understand is sort of off topic here, but how's that work?
Yes, absolutely. So here's the trick, and they actually have a little table in some of the documentation pages for USMT, that Windows XP is fine for the most recent version of USMT as a source computer. So all the way back to Windows XP, we can use USMT on Windows XP as a source computer, but it cannot be a destination. Windows 7 and Windows 8, Windows 8.1 and Windows 10 can all be destination computers. So all of them could be the source or the destination. Windows XP is only allowed to be the source. Only allowed to be the source. I'm trying to think if I've got that link in my bit.ly tucked away over here, because I'm pretty sure I had something like that. Kits and tools. So I did grab the USMT syntax links. That one's going to end up being a useful one for you as well. If you're using user state migration tool, the syntax links. By the way, if you're not already familiar with this, bit.ly links are case sensitive. So if you're using bit.ly links, bit.ly is a URL shortener, case sensitive. So cap.u, cap.s, cap.m, cap.t, cap.s, yntax, cap.l, inks, and it'll actually take you to the USMT. Now, I linked you to the USMT links for the previous version of USMT, version 5, because Microsoft, and again, I banged away at Microsoft's TechNet and MSDN servers and had the darndest time trying to find the documentation for the new USMT, and it's not there. Luckily, all the syntax stuff for USMT 5 still works for this new Windows 10 USMT. So USMT is documented, but the documentation is for the previous version, not for the most recent Windows 10 version, but it's still the same commands, still the same functionality. As a matter of fact, I have a script that I want to make sure I open up ahead of time for my USMT command so that I can make sure that that is going to work for us. And I'll bring those out and copy paste them. But again, there's my USMT syntax links. I went ahead and put that in here too so that I can remind to tell you guys about it. So let's get back over here. As far as showing this off, my environment is 2 virtual machines, a Windows 8 virtual machine and a Windows 10 virtual machine, which we're going to be using to transfer to. It's going to be our target. So what I want to do is go with the PC Mover, one-off singleton, the new wet tool from Windows 8. And again, it's already been installed, already been downloaded from that link I gave you guys earlier. I went ahead and installed it. And if I crank that puppy up, it's going to do its own little, hey, here we go, let's get this thing rolling. It does have to run in administrative mode. So it'll automatically bring up the user account control and say, hey, we're about to require elevation. Can I do that? And it'll elevate that puppy. It'll go ahead and crank it up. Now, once that guy starts running, it's going to, touch everything it needs to. It's going to grab a hold of the user list, and again, full of ads. They have a free transfer service, so if you need to give them a call to get some help, they'll be happy to do that. Let me reiterate. This is a separate company's tool that Microsoft has wrangled a free version for us. So any of the free service, free assistance information they offer to you is coming from their company, not from Microsoft. All right? So here we're asking for a PC to PC transfer. We're going to indicate that this is the old computer. I'm on the Windows 8.1 platform that I want to transfer from. So this is the old computer. and I'm using a wired network, Wi-Fi or wired, meaning that the computer is in the same network as I am. My target is in the same network, so I'm going to go ahead and go with Wi-Fi or wired. They do have a cable option, so if you go ahead and buy their USB cable, or if you buy their lap link cable, you can connect the two computers directly to each other. Speed may vary depending upon the USB connection that you're using, so I kind of like the network. As long as you got a network, which just about every machine does, you're going to just use that network and connect. Now, it's going to go in and scan the users, the settings. It's going to scan the other files. It's also going to scan the applications, even though, as I mentioned earlier, the Express edition of the PC Mover does not transfer applications, but it's going to scan them so that it can advertise to you. Say, oh, yeah, you got applications you might want to transfer. Go ahead and upgrade to the Professional edition by clicking here. So they're going to do that little add functionality in here in a little bit. But that's what it's scanning. It's making sure that it can grab everything that we're interested in using and move it over, which will make things run a little bit more smoothly. Now, while that's going on, it's still scanning. It will eventually tell us, hey, go over to the new PC and start up the tool. So I'm going to go ahead and over on my Windows 10, start it up. In essence, it's got to be installed on both sides. And what it'll do is it'll connect to each other once we get here. We'll say, okay, PC lap link mover, lap link PC mover. Let's go ahead and crank it up over here. And again, giving it a little bit of time to do its thing in the background. It'll start up and it'll say, okay, I'm on Windows 10 already. Very likely this is going to be my destination. So it gives us the pre-transfer checklist and some other elements. Oh, by the way, little note, any of the files that are managed on the old PC by OneDrive or Dropbox, any of those folders or directories, they are not going to be transferred with the PC Mover. Basically, they say, why would I put that extra work into it if all you got to do on your new machine is connect to OneDrive and connect to Dbox and you're done, right? So they don't even bother. They just say, we're not going to do it. We're going to go ahead and next, we're going to do a PC to PC transfer, which is fine. And we're going to indicate that this is a new machine. This is our new machine. It's Windows 8.1 or later. So we're going to specify this is our second computer and go ahead and hit next. Now, there is a registration here where you're going to specify who you are. And I'm going to say, all right, I am test ms1 at richardmorganjr.com. The name, and I'm also going to paste that in as the email because the name is the email. That'll work. I'll hit next on that guy, and I'm using a Wi-Fi or wired network. I'm on the same network as the other machine. Again, they also offer you a little ad to buy a cable if you're interested. And then it says, okay, locate your old computer. It does a quick search and sees if it's running on another machine in the network, and if it does, it plugs that name in. It says, oh yeah, we see Richie 8.1 out here. He's currently at the point where go to the new computer to proceed. So I kind of jumped the gun, but that allows me to go to my new computer and proceed. Here's my Windows 10. Let me make sure I bring up my Windows 8 as well. Make it easy for me to go back and forth. So back over on Windows 10. It found Richie 8.1. He's listening. He's ready. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next. He's going to connect. And now he's going to get what the Windows 8.1 analysis discovered. Say, okay, Windows 8.1, give me your analysis sheet. Let me go through it and find out who can be moved, what can be moved, how it can be moved, you know, all that kind of jazz. It's going to go through and dig into what we've got. And then once it's done the transferring of the analysis, it's going to come back and allow me to make some selections. So again, if I go back over to that 8.1 environment, he's working. He's transferring that PC analysis. He's shoving it over to the Windows 10. He's saying, here you go. This is what I found. These users. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, on my 8.1 platform, I created a couple of users, generated some content for them. And let me see if I can get there and show you. Come on, Windows 8.1. I know you're busy, but wake up. All right, we'll go ahead and do administrative tools on that one. Again, while it's working, we'll head into those administrative tools and show off. I've got 2 users specifically that we're aiming at here. There are 2 users specifically that we're after. I created them as local users, so they do not have a Microsoft account associated with them. They're just local users in this Windows 8.1 platform. This works for domain users. This works for local users. This works for Windows account connected users. Beware, the Windows account users are really local users with an extra Windows account layer on top of them, so just keep that in mind. And we'll leave that for a Windows 8 or Windows 10 class to discuss. But I do have 2 local users created that I'm interested in migrating. Specifically in this case, I want to use migrate me. I only want to move migrate me. Migrate me has on her desktop a to-do list. Migrate me has a specific background wallpaper, a nice jarring background wallpaper that we'll see. So what I want to have happen is from this Windows 8.1 machine, let's use the migrate me user from 8.1 over to 10. Now, over in 10, still working, we'll go ahead and take a look at computer management. All right, so there's computer management, the desktop app. And take a look in my local users, and I currently do not have migrate me. I also do not have migrate me 2. We'll take care of migrate me 2 with the user state migration tools in a bit. All right, I'm trying to keep track of my time and make sure we're on the right track here. So again, nothing up my sleeve, all right? Windows 10 does not have a migrate me user, does not have a migrate me user 2. We're going to have to address that. So OneDrive was detected. It's been enabled on the destination computer. Please select the data folders to transfer to the OneDrive folder on the destination. So here's the trick. I can actually tell when I do my transfer from 8.1, hey, put this stuff into the OneDrive folders. Now, remember, they mentioned earlier in the slide, in their little informational piece, that OneDrive data does not get moved. So I'm not going to touch your OneDrive folder because we figure it's already up on the server. But I will take your data that's not in the OneDrive and put it into your OneDrive folders, which is kind of nice if you're using that. If you're not, then let's keep going. So I'm going to say, no, we're not going to put anything into my OneDrive folders at the moment. Then we get this. We get to identify the drives, identify the folders, and apply filters, identify files and apply filters. And specifically at the user account settings, I can go in and say, all right, who am I transferring? Now, this is kind of slick. I can choose everybody, include all users, and there are some that if there is no user new, user old is listed but no user new, that account is not being transferred. So in this case, administrator is not being transferred, guest is not being transferred, Test Morgan is being transferred. Well, we already have Test Morgan, so we're okay with that. Migrate Me is being transferred, Migrate Me 2 is being transferred, and the default is being transferred. So we have default settings from the old machine on the new machine. That can be worked. But in this case, all I really want to do, I'm going to exclude everything, and I just want to do Migrate Me. And I'm going to edit this and indicate Migrate Me is going to have to be recreated on the target computer. So let's create that new user, Migrate Me. Now, if I had a user that I wanted to transfer it to, maybe Migrate Me on the old machine is going to become New Migrate Me on the new machine, then I could transfer it to. Or maybe Migrate Me on the old machine becomes Bob on the new machine. Transfer to user allows me to kind of jam Migrate Me stuff into Bob's profile, into Bob's data. So I can actually do that. This is what you would use if you're going to transfer from one old domain user to a new domain user. That's an option as well. So you can swap from one domain user to another domain user. And again, it handles all the permissions, handles the data, the profile, everything. Boom, bumps it over, which is kind of cool. So for Migrate Me, I think I'm covered. That's the only one I want to move, Migrate Me. It's a limited account. It's not an administrative account. You can move administrative accounts too, that's fine. So I'll hit Done. We're happy having selected our user account, so we'll hit Next. And it's going to go ahead and transfer just migrate me. Now, it'll pop up a little dialog that says, okay, based upon your selections, it's going to take 1 hour to accomplish the transfer. It's not going to take an hour. It's going to take, at most, I looked at it, it took about 5 minutes to do. So this may be the end of my demonstration, but I want you guys to see that this is actually going to move only this guy. So again, it says the transfer will take approximately 1 hour. Lie. I went in, I had all the users in there. It said it'll take an hour. And I took all the users out and put just migrate me in. And as you can see, it says it'll take an hour. So I don't think they're really doing any calculations in their tool back here. I just see they're throwing 1 hour out there just so you can expect the worst, but then be pleasantly surprised when it takes 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. So off we go. Oh, by the way, again, we are a commercial enterprise here. We'd like to get some spiff in on you. We're going to spiff ourselves by installing Bing as your search engine, adding an Office 365 download link, and oh, by the way, we're going to put OneDrive on there. I'm going to choose in this case because I uncheck them just to be absolutely sure, but do not install any software on my new PC, please. I don't want any of your spiffware. I hit next, off it goes. Now completing the transfer. Back over on my 8.1 machine, if I take a look, I should see transfer is in progress. He's going and actually doing the move and moving that content over. The little progress bar is moving over. Back over on 10, hacking away. Again, elapsed time goes up a little bit at a time. And it's going to let me know when it's done in a few minutes that, hey, we did it. Congratulations. This transfer is now done. And while that's working, I'm going to take a sip of water. Victory sip, right?
Good time for questions.
Good time for questions. We got some?
I don't. That's what I'm saying.
Come on, people. Throw a question in there. I know this demo is not stars and stripes. This demo is not amazing music and awesome display, but it's Windows Easy Transfer from another company with a new name. It does basically the same thing.
I think we're just happy that it's not actually going to take an hour.
Exactly. I love that part. So there it is. Congratulations. PC Mover is done. I can restart the computer automatically. Here's a little gotcha, and I don't know if you guys caught this with Windows Easy Transfer. The new user is not available in the logon screen until this system reboots. It's not immediately available in that logon screen. So if I were to log off of my test user and try to log in as migrate me, it's not there. So restart automatically is a nice little checkbox. Upload non-identifiable application selection data. That's big wordy information for, hey, we collected some information while we were doing our move. Can we send that back home to analyze? You can. You don't. It doesn't matter. It's non-identifiable, so it doesn't identify anything about you. Just how long did it take and what did you select. So I'm going to go ahead and let it restart. While it's restarting, I'm going to come back over here, and there's my little, hey, do you want to donate or resell your old PC? Awfully convenient, right? They also have two tools. Let's add a shortcut for their link disk image and a shortcut for their lap link safe erase. No, thank you. I don't want any of your shortcuts. Although you did have a great tool here. I appreciate it being free, and I don't want to buy anything else. I'll hit next. It says, congratulations, we're done. Hit finish, and we're done. Now, here comes the user state migration demo. Quick little demonstration on user state. I know I got 1 minute left, and I got to let you guys go. The important part about user state migration, log on to the source machine and the destination machine with an administrative account. User state migration requires an administrative account. Secondly, user state migration requires an administrative command prompt. So make sure you run the command prompt as administrator. It's a requirement. It will not be able to grab all of the data that you're after with the user state migration tool if you're not doing it from an administrative command prompt. Now, with that administrative command prompt in place, I can go back over to my scan state syntax. And again, this is the scan state command. And it's going to allow me to indicate that I am going to use a couple of XML files, and I'll let you guys take a cool class on scan state and load state to be able to pick out all these options. Take a look at the syntax link, specifically USMT syntax links at bit.ly, and it'll let you do that. Now, I went ahead on my 10 machine and set up a migration store folder, shared it, set the permissions, so that when I do my scan state, I'm going to dump my migration into that store. All the data I gather is going to go there. And I'm going to exclude migrate me. I don't want migrate me. We already did migrate me. I just want to get everybody else. Now here's the trick. By default, scan state migrates all the users on the system. If you want to exclude anybody, you have to add an exclusion for each account you want to exclude. So UE is the user exclude, and you'd have to add one for every user. Then the last little option here is V5, which is how much feedback do I want written to my scan state log? The log that keeps track of what's going on. 5 is verbose. Status and errors goes into that log. There is a more verbose option, 13, which is debug information and status and errors. I don't need the debug info. I just need the status and errors. So put that into the log, please. I'm going to copy this guy, head over to my Windows 8 machine, and paste that in, and hit execute. All right. The problem is I'm in the wrong directory. Scan state is actually installed in program files. So let's CD over to the root, and then CD to program files x86. CD into the let's see, Windows kits. There it is. And then CD into the 10 directory. CD into the assessment and deployment kit, and then CD into the user state migration tool directory. And in here we actually have a directory per architecture. And I'm going to go to the AMD 64. And now we have the 64-bit executable scan state, load state stuff. So I'm going to bring that command back up. There's my scan state using the MIG docs, MIG app. Go put the migration stuff in this MIG store location, and then exclude migrate me. I don't want migrate me. So off we go. It's going to go ahead and do the scan. Now, it's going to scan. Oh, let's see. An error occurred passing the command line. Invalid store path. Check the store parameter and or, oh, you know what? My Windows 10 machine may have run into a boot problem. Here we go. Let me bring this guy up. Nice. Let's make sure it's booted up. Network running and all. Let's try this again now. Heck, while we're here. Aha! We're live. So let's try this one more. All right, so something's wrong with the network. Invalid store path. Because I know it's there. One more check, and then I may just cut it loose. Everyone is currently set. You know what? I reverted last night after I set this all up. I reverted to before I set the security properly. Let me set this. Here I have my full control for everyone. And here I have my share permissions. Again, it doesn't have to be everyone. I'm obviously killing a fly with a sledgehammer here. But giving everyone full control is a little dangerous, but set the permissions appropriately for the users that will be migrating. All right, so here's their thanks, by the way. LapLink wants to say thank you for using our stuff, and we'd be happy to give you some other things to install. Thanks for everything. You know what? Don't show me this again. I'm happy with what you've given me. Go away. All right, so now my migration store is ready. We should be able to, one last time, execute this, starting the migration. So it's going to go in. Again, scan state by default is going to capture all the users in the system, unless you go through and exclude them or exclude all. and then include only the ones you require. You can go at it a couple of different ways. Oh, look at there. I get a warning. Problem caused the program to stop working correctly. Windows will close the program and notify you if a solution is available. How nice. And I would need to go in and check the log. Specifically, they've got User State Migration Tool, AMD64 Scan State Log, to figure out a little bit more about what went wrong. And again, thanks to the logging, the Verbose 5, thanks to that logging, I can actually get in there and figure out where things fell apart. Now, again, I know I'm getting close to the end of time. If everything were set up right, Scan State would do its thing with no issue. But as you guys know, a live show, things are going to go awry occasionally. We may run into some issues.
Well, that worked really well yesterday when we ran the demo. So, of course, this is the live one, isn't it?
I was doing it fine the other day. It went great.
Well, this is a great opportunity for anyone to put in another question about what you might have seen, or just generally to mock Richie. Your call.
Yeah, mock me is fine. I can take it. I can take it. All right, here we go.
I did have a question here. Unfortunately, I missed it. It came in about 7 minutes ago. So,
okay.
User State Migration Tool would be the tool we use for corporate migration activities after the main migration upgrade to Windows 10 takes place?
Yes. So that's the exact spot where User State Migration Tool goes in. Well, kind of. So here's what's going to happen. You have Windows 7 users. They're happy. They love their machines. You run the scan state on their Windows 7 machines before the official migration happens. Scan state dumps their scanned content into a migration store, maybe up on a server, maybe on an external hard drive. Most of the time, it's going to be a shared folder up on a server. Then you roll out your Windows 10 image to the entire corporate enterprise. They are all working now on a clean Windows 10 environment. They do not have any of their settings, any of their content, any of their data, nothing. Then you force on those machines a run of load state, pulling the migrated data from the server onto those machines. So it's kind of a little bit of both. You've got on the Windows 7, we scan their state, we roll out our Windows 10 image, and then on the Windows 10 machines, we load state to bring that data and profile and settings back down. So that's the process for User State Migration Tool. And again, it's a great platform, a great tool. Now that everything is booted appropriately, mine is running just fine. It finally connected to that Windows 10 machine and is pushing that migration data into it. As a matter of fact, if you take a look at that Windows 10 machine, my migration store, the little icon even indicates we're getting stuff. Stuff is actually coming in now. So if I take a look inside of that, I'm getting some folder content. The User State Migration Tool is pushing migration stuff from Windows 8 into this machine. Once it's finished, I get a success, scan state returned a code of 0, and now over here, I can run load state. Now, by the way, the load state script is a little simple. Again, load state from this migration store. I went ahead and used the network path just to illustrate that you can use the network path. It's right there on the Windows 10 machine, so I could just give it the exact path. You also, because these are local access users, these are local users and not Windows account users, you have to add in this extra local account switch and local account enabled. It says, okay, by the way, the account that I'm loading is local, or the accounts, some of the accounts I'm loading are local, and I want them enabled once we're done. By default, it won't load local accounts, only domain or Windows accounts, and it will not enable those local accounts even if it loads them unless you turn both of these on. These two switches are required. So let me get my load state. I know I'm hitting the wall, aren't I? Right at the wall. I'm going to go ahead and right-click and run this as administrator. Yes, please give me that elevation. I'm going to cd over to ... program files x86, cd to the Windows kits, cd into the administrative, the 10, cd to the administrative assessment and deployment kit, cd into the user state migration tool and cd into the AMD64 directory. Now I can paste in my load state command. It's going to then grab that content, start the migration, and put that user in. In the end, what's going to happen is I will successfully have moved with LapLink PC Mover, migrate me, with the user state migration tool, everybody else, including migrate me too. Their desktop wallpaper, their desktop contents, all of that stuff is going to come across, and it'll be right there on my target Windows 10 system. Again, smooth as butter sometimes. All right, crew, I know that you guys have other things to do. I appreciate you giving me your time. Next steps I would recommend, here are the links for downloading PC Mover Express. That's that PC Mover free Azure website's link. There is the link for downloading the assessment and deployment kit for Windows 10, a nice little Win 10 ADK, both, again, bit.ly links, case sensitive, be aware of that. There are also some courses that Microsoft has created that are releasing in October, 2697.1 and 2697.2, installing, configuring, and deploying and managing Windows 10. These cover the material required to pass exam 7697, configuring devices. Again, that is a beta exam, which means if you take it now, you don't pay. And if you pass it, you get credit for the certification later on. It's kind of nice.
Incidentally,
certification-wise, the certification you would officially get is actually a specialist certification. So there's not a full-blown MCSE, MCSA for this process just yet, but currently it's a specialist certification for Windows 10 configuring devices. So if you're interested, hit those downloads, gang. Get those. They're free. Why not, right? And then be ready for those courses to go live and that exam to go live, and you're going to be up and running. Again, crew, thank you for coming. I'm very appreciative of you being here. If you have any questions, ask.
let me just add that I did drop the slide deck, so you don't have to write down all those little tiny URLs. They are in the handout section. You should be able to download those, and you can grab them from there. So now we're open up to questions. Not a question, but one of our attendees said, "Great educational time, Richie. Looking forward for to many more to attend. Goodbye." So yes, goodbye to you, and thank you very much.
Thank you, crew, and I appreciate you coming and spending your lunchtime with me. I hope you were able to munch on something while you're learning. If you have any questions, you guys are welcome to come back, hit me up on email. I don't think I put my email address in. Am I allowed to do that?
Sure, why not? If you want to get all sorts of questions and things that people think up at 3 in the morning, then go ahead and do that.
Yeah, so maybe not. But I wish I don't have the editing up here, so I can't do that. I'll throw it in the chat anyways, but rmorgan@nhgeorgia.com. I'll just throw it out there. rmorgan@nhgeorgia.com. I'll be happy to answer whatever I can on this topic otherwise.
And while people are downloading, there was a question came in. When describing the parts of USMT after scan state and load state, you mentioned a third part that was a utility. Was that GUI utility or USMT?
No, not a GUI utility. All right, so they do have a util. If you take a look at it, let me go back over here real quick to this PC, C drive, and actually I think I had that open over here too. It is the USMT utils. All right, and USMT utils is not a GUI. I wish it were, man. That would be so nice. But it allows you to improve cryptographic options. It assists you in removing hard link stores. It verifies whether the catalog file is going to be compressed or not. It extracts files from a migration package. So basically, it's a great little tool if you need to get in and hammer away at the migration package between here and there, affecting compression and encryption, but it's not a GUI. There is a user state migration tool GUI, not free, but it is donateware. And I don't think I linked it. Take a look out there, USMT GUI. You'll find that it comes up, and it's a fairly comprehensive. This guy is actually keeping up with it, and he only asks $10.
That's a bargain.
So it might be worth, yeah, it might be worth getting. Okay, crew. I hope I answered that question appropriately for you. Good luck with this stuff.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you, Richie, for giving a great show.
Hey, you're very welcome.
All right. Goodbye. We'll see you on the next go-round.